Terrific. Can I have a wave from everyone in the hall just to know that you can hear me? Great. Thank you, Radha. Thank you, everyone. I'm delighted to be joining you and have been really enjoying the presentations today. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person. I'm joining you from 𝐃𝐢𝐿𝐴 country in Victoria, and I'm really delighted to be here. So I have been working in menstrual education for really possibly since 1990. I was working in natural fertility management then, and in the year 2000 started to run programs specifically on menstrual education. So I know just from hearing a little bit about who's in the room that as a group you have a lot of experience and a lot of ideas and a lot of passion for menstrual education. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I can maybe add to that and give you a few more things to think about. So as a place to start, what I would like, I'm imagining that you all have some sort of notebook or even a device that you can take notes on. So what I would like you to do is take a couple of minutes to write down, just from the top of your head, your ideas about what quality menstrual education involves. Now, I'm guessing that for many of you, you could write a whole PhD, and perhaps some of you have, on quality menstrual education. I would just like you to take a few minutes to take some notes now, just what that means to you right now. So I'm just going to give you some time to do that. And I know we have a number of people out having tea, but we'll just forge ahead and do what we can here. So perhaps we'll move ahead. So for those who have had a moment to think about that and what they would like to say about it, perhaps you could share with your neighbour what's particularly speaking to you today about quality menstrual education. It might be the person next to you or behind you. How would you define quality menstrual education? Anisha, I'm wondering, are you there now? Perhaps we can hear from a few people in the who are participating. I think she will have there she is.
Okay, the participants have gone outside for it, bringing three in the hall. I will ask the ones who are in the hall. Is that okay?
Great,
Want to
thank
share?
you.
Okay, we do have a participant here.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah. So for me, quality menstrual education includes accurate information. That's one thing. Second thing, inclusivity. Another thing is that the cultural sensitivity, because it's vary from culture to culture and different cultures have different mindset about everything regarding menstruation. Another thing that it should be interactive and people should feel safe sharing their stories or whatever knowledge they have in that place. And yeah, the basic anatomy and physiology of the menstruation, that how it works. Yeah, that's from my side.
Fantastic. What a great list.
Yeah, I'm Chandan Kumar Hasda and I'm pursuing PhD from International Institute for Population Sciences, Mumbai, India. And I'm basically from Jharkhand, India. And yeah, I'm working with tribal adolescents in Jharkhand for my PhD.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have another one.
Yeah, I'm Deepthi. I'm from the Safai Karmachari Andolan movement, which is a campaign for the elimination of manual scavenging and the liberation and rehabilitation of all persons affected by manual scavenging. And looking at the quality, how I define quality menstrual education is that at the outset, I think the education has to be that menstruation is a normal biological function for all human beings who menstruate. And the second is that to unpack the myths and the superstitions and around menstruation and how they're connected to the patriarchal and the ethnic or the casteist attitudes and behaviors that are linked to enforcing the menstrual stigma and discrimination, which go along with the myths and the superstitions that have been propagated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we have another one.
Okay, we'll have one more, Anisha.
Thank you. I am Shajda from Bangladesh. I am working with UNICEF. So, if my two colleagues are roommate here, I agree fully with you. In addition to that, I think that knowing or understanding the learner psychology is also a factor. Because of that, in my experience, I saw that we are teaching or we are giving education, but without knowing their psychological thinking. Another thing is that teachers' facilitation capacity or quality. So these two things are also important for quality education. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Fantastic. What terrific responses. If we had all day, I would love to hear from everybody because I'm sure we would have many more wonderful responses. So I'm going to share a few slides with you, if you'll just bear with me. Okay, here we go. Sorry, it just takes me a minute to set that up. I'm just going to go back for a sec. Okay, so here we have our title today, which is Quality Menstrual Education is Key to a Healthy, Equitable and Just Society. So, you know, I almost hesitate to look at this slide because I know you are all so motivated and so have such understanding about why we would offer menstrual education. But if you're anything like me, it's always worth exploring this further. And even though I've been in this field for many decades, I'm still so curious and so interested and really love hearing about all the different ways that we are finding to have effective menstrual education. So I just wanted to share with you a few of the many bodies of research that really explore, you know, the issue about what a lack of menstrual education does. So the first is a body of research or a survey that I was involved with the Victorian Women's Trust that then became part of a book called About Bloody Time. And one of the results was that we had we surveyed girls, young women from 12 and through to women up to 80. So we were looking at the experience of menarche, menstruation, and also menopause. So 7 out of 10 girls from 12 to 18 said they disliked everything about periods or that they are mostly bad. So that's 70%. And when I saw that statistic, it really, I knew we had an issue, but it really struck me very strongly, because I thought, surely we can do better. And to me, this is very much a result of the silence and isolation and shame that is around the experience of starting to have periods for girls and women and others who bleed too. And yeah, anyway, you get it. That's a very strong reason to really get proactive about menstrual education. There was also a study at the Centre for Adolescent Health in Melbourne some years ago. This is connected to the Royal Hospital for Children. And they found that they were looking at risks of depression in young people. And they found that the strongest marker of a transition in the risk of depression and anxiety for girls is whether they've passed through menarche or not. And this this is very interesting, because when I first saw this study come out, it was just assumed, okay, well, that's it, that's an issue. Getting your period is difficult, and maybe girls really struggle with that. That seemed to be what the research was saying, but no one in that body of research, or subsequently to my knowledge, actually examined why that might be and whether we can do something about it. So just moving on, you might have come across this piece of research, which is truly fascinating, in Colorado in the US, where an actor was performing a number of identical activities. So it wasn't known to the study participants that they were involved in a study that was looking at the menstrual taboo or menstrual shame. That was not known. But they had an actor perform a number of identical activities, and there was just one thing that differed. With one group, they accidentally dropped out of their pocket or bag, I can't remember which, a hair clip, and with another group, it was a tampon. And what they found is actually, then the participants in the study did a survey afterwards, an evaluation of this person. Were they this? Were they that? If they were looking for a job, were they this? Were they that? So on and so forth. And what they found was that in an evaluation of competence and likability, the actor who dropped a hair clip was rated higher than the same person who dropped a tampon. So to me, that's a real, in a way, that's a real, what they call a gut punch. It's really like, it is so deeply unconscious that there's a difference, a significant difference in the evaluation of competence and likability if there's an indication that this person may have their period. Moving on, there was a great study a number of years ago where girls were researched several years after they went through menarche, and they were asked what would have made that experience better for you. And what they found was a really strong indications that, number one, they would have liked emotional support. So someone to connect with, someone who gave them time and really cared for them around this experience of getting their first period. Secondarily, practical information. How do I manage my period? How do I have to use pads or tampons or something else? How do I do that? What do I do with them when I'm finished? All of those very practical things. Well, how do I manage it at school? How do I manage it at home? And the third was physiology. So understanding the biology of what was happening. And to me, from what I see here in Australia and what I hear from many places around the world, what is often missing is that emotional support. We can give some factual information, some, black and white charts, that sort of thing, but actually having a person who is warm and engaged and curious and interested and able to really be present for whatever's coming up for young people around their periods. So the last study I wanted to share with you is this was at a study in the Australian Capital Territory, which is basically where Canberra is in Australia. And they showed, the study showed that a lack of personal knowledge about cycles really leads to an astoundingly low rate of seeking help if there are problems, which makes sense, doesn't it? And of course, if there's a low rate, or a very low rate, in this case, of seeking help if there are menstrual problems. And this goes on for years because often that lack of knowledge means that a person doesn't know, is what I'm experiencing normal or abnormal? And so, so they can go on for years not knowing that what they're experiencing, that they can get help for, and that it isn't normal. And of course, this has long-term health impacts. Something that may have been able to be treatable at a young age may be much more difficult to treat properly later on. Okay. So, hang on. So let's move to the more positive side of this. How do we foster shame resilience? And of course, the answer to that is positive menstrual education as one thing, and there are many other things. So a healthy, equitable, and just society is supported by positive and comprehensive menstrual education. By comprehensive, it's not going to all be done in one session. I mean, who remembered everything they learnt in the first ever time they read a book or heard things about menstruation or heard about the biology? We really need that space to be able to receive information and to have conversations and to ask questions in a safe and inclusive space ongoing. So I've made, these are only some of the important points, and of course some of you have given and written down, probably a bunch of other things as well. But of course, accurate, age-appropriate menstrual cycle biology and awareness is really important. And I know in Australia that very often the menstrual cycle will be explained, at a class where reproduction is taught. And this might be several years after a young person has started to have a menstrual cycle. So it can be, that in itself can be late. So accurate, age appropriate, and starting early, really starting early and building. Secondarily, understanding and addressing the menstrual taboo. I think it's so important to, and of course this will be done in different ways, in different cultures, for different age groups, for different demographics, but I think it really needs to be named and it really needs to be understood. And for all of us who are menstrual educators, it's really important to keep being aware of the many faces of the menstrual taboo. And I know I'm singing to the choir here. I know you have a lot of understanding about this. And of course, in an ongoing fashion, straightforward, respectful communication and conversations is really important. And really finding, all the many different ways of doing that. It's not one conversation. There needs to be discussion and strategies for managing menstrual materials. What's available to manage menstruation? The range of things has certainly been growing in recent years, and of course that may vary from place to place, and it may vary depending what materials cost that may be prohibitive in some places. But of course, there needs to be a discussion and strategies for each particular place. There needs to be discussion and strategies for social and emotional issues. What is, and of course, social and emotional issues, we can talk about our own, we can tell stories about our own experiences, but we also need to be open and, create an environment where people feel safe and private enough, and that there's confidentiality to be able to share how that is for them. That's a really important part that is still often missed. And of course, there needs to be discussion and strategies about what is normal and what to do if your experience is not normal. I think this is a fundamental key, and again, is probably still not happening in most places. And of course, I think someone mentioned this when we were sharing before, is adults modeling healthy attitudes and behaviors. So this can be something that's often missed. I think whoever has either put their hand up in, maybe in a school situation or some other situation, to run the menstrual education, needs to have done some of a journey themselves. So whether they are a menstruator themselves or not, really to have done some reflection and exploration about their own attitudes, about where those came from, about whether they need to evolve and change those attitudes. I mean, there's no sort of simple end point to this reflection, but I think it's really important to have been involved in a process like that. Okay, I want to share with you this definition of menstrual health, and not having been at the conference yesterday, I'm not sure if anyone has been talking about this, and perhaps you're very familiar with it, but for those who aren't, I'd like to share it. So this came from the Terminology Action Group of the Global Menstrual Collective, which was published in 2021. There's a reference slide later on, and you will get a copy of this PowerPoint, so you'll be able to look all this up. But this is the simple core definition that they came up with. Menstrual health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity in relation to the menstrual cycle. So when I first saw that a few years ago, I was thrilled and I was stunned by the comprehensiveness of this statement. And I'm pleased to say that it has since gone on to be ratified by the WHO. When you do get hold of this PowerPoint presentation and have a look at the references, if you go to the article where this came out, there is a much more comprehensive unpacking of what that means in a number of different, really important areas. It's really a fantastic definition, and I think, would give us all plenty to work with for many years, just really trying to fulfill all the different areas. So I strongly recommend you have a look at that if you haven't already, but we don't have time to go through all that today. So I want to share with you a clip. Oh, yes, I can play it. And I'm hoping this will come out well, go across Zoom, but maybe someone could alert me if it's not. And this is CDG outreach. So CDG is an acronym for Celebration Day for Girls, which is our at the 𝐃𝐢𝐿's Foundation is our flagship program. And in some places, we're just calling this Celebration Day to degender it. And what we're finding is, in some countries, in some parts of the world, that's particularly important, and that's a strong value for the community. And in other parts, not so much, and even really looking at the gender issues around the experience of the menstrual taboo is still really important. So, and the CDG outreach are programs that are free to participants, and we have, who you'll meet in a moment, 𝐷𝐤𝐿𝐼𝐧𝐢𝐿, who is a yogic nun who works in Colombia, and she has been training local women and running programs there herself for several years. So I'll let her speak for herself and these programs.
Hi, I'm 𝐷𝐤𝐿𝐼𝐧𝐢𝐿, CDG facilitator and trainer based in Colombia, South America. Over the last 4 years, I've been doing CDG outreach programs, mostly in remote communities here in the mountains. And I chose to focus on those rural areas because of the lack of opportunities for education and development. There's simply nothing to do for girls and teenagers. So I want to show you what the journey has been like. I trained during the pandemic, and as soon as the restrictions were lifted at the end of 2021, I started the CDGs, and my first workshop was in a tiny village called Mesopotamia. And it was a physical challenge. It was cold, there was no glass in the windows, I lost my voice. However, the girls were very happy, the mothers were very grateful, and we got off at a good start. Since then, we have continued, and over the last 3 years, there was a year that we couldn't do any workshops. In 3 years, we did 26 workshops and reached 285 girls. And these places are not necessarily easy. It's not always been smooth sailing. Sometimes the roads are too bad. Sometimes the mothers can't reach because it's been raining too much. Sometimes the mothers walk up to 2 hours, and the girls, obviously, to attend. And famously, one time we went to a place where there is no road. So the donkeys brought down our materials and we walked down a hike of 1 hour, 45 minutes. And on the way back, they lent us our donkeys to go back to the car and drive back. And sometimes the places available there in these communities aren't great either. We end up cleaning, organizing, and covering up many things, and we do the best with what we have. And it's absolutely worth it because these places, these girls really want to learn. We always find these girls with smiles. They want to know, they're eager, and the mothers are grateful for the opportunity. Because the CDG provides the information that they need and that they want. Because in these communities, these ideas still persist that menstruation is the bad blood leaving the body. The pain that we have, the cramps that we have, is our payment for the original sin of Eve. And having a period is still referred to as being ill. And also very important, CDG gives them the message that they are worth it. That's also the reason why we donate hot water bottles. Some of them have never seen those before. But the message is you deserve to take care of yourself too. And that's the reason also why Jane and others have knitted covers, hottie covers. And you are welcome to join a knitting club. And as I shared about this work with the women from my Women's Circle and other programs, some of them got inspired. So in 2023 was the first CDG facilitator training in Spanish. There were 2 trainings back to back. 19 facilitators were trained and another 6 were trained in 2025. And then I have monthly meetings with them where we share our joys and our struggles, and we come up with strategies and mutual support for the obstacles, and of course to encourage each other. Many of those facilitators do outreach programs as well in inner city settings, in girls' homes, indigenous communities, etc. One facilitator even has specialized in adapting the workshop to girls with disabilities. So even though it's not smooth sailing always, it's absolutely worth it. What keeps me going is the impact on the women and of course on the girls. For the women, what happens is that they have little to no agency in these communities. I don't want to go into sad stories, but after my first mother session, I couldn't sleep all night just thinking about them. They are the ones to raise the kids, to run the household, to look after the elderly, and to keep down a job, to have some income. And those are usually less than minimum wage jobs under really harsh conditions. So I met many mothers also who got pregnant while on contraception or after having their tubes tied. But well, there was a bad batch of injections, and the surgery was like a conveyor belt kind of setup. So it's hard because even many mothers would say that they had been sexually abused as a teenager, and they don't want that to happen to their daughters. But what can they do? And anyway, in general, the message I have for the women is that it's not their fault. And what happened is that society has not learned yet to value women. And when I see that click in their mind, that's the kind of impact that motivates me to continue. And of course, the impact on the girls, because the mothers want something better for the daughters, but they may not have the tools. And it's not easy. And in schools, the girls often get the message that their menstruation is not, well, there's no consideration for that. Many of schools have very poor sanitary facilities, toilets without light, without bins, sometimes without water, and toilet paper has to be requested from the teacher. In one place, a priest, whose place we were going to use, told us to use the fields around as toilets. I mean, what's the message for girls who menstruate? I mean, how can they have a good relationship with their cycle or with their menstruation if those are the circumstances? So to see the change during the workshop, the change of mind and the change of attitude towards their menstruation, and towards attitudes towards their bodies is really makes me smile. We do follow-up programs as well, and when I hear them talk freely about periods, I just smile. We give these girls a different message, a different way to learn. We want them to know that they are worthy, that they have potential, that they have to believe in themselves. And basically, there's so much work to do for gender equality or gender equity. And without menstrual education, nothing will quite have the impact it should have. So that's what keeps me going. And besides, we have to raise the funds for those workshops because due to the economic challenges, we offer these programs free of charge and sometimes even provide lunch. I do not get an income, nor does Jashoda, my right hand and colleague in this adventure. And the CDGs are funded by donations and by the vulva cushions that my mom makes. So with that help, we can continue to bring these programs to more and more girls, just like the last 285.
So, I hope you're able to see that video okay and hear it okay. It's very inspiring what's happening, and the people, the facilitators that work with DD are in Colombia, in numerous areas of Colombia, quite diverse areas, and Peru and Ecuador and in Mexico. At this stage, and there's a couple of facilitators who trained with her who are running the celebration days in the United States in Spanish for Spanish-speaking communities there. So just as a way to follow up, I'm going to read what we call an imagine statement. So this is imagining that we all woke up in the morning and all menstrual discrimination and shame and taboo had disappeared. What would be different? What would we notice? Maybe straight away, maybe over the next few days and weeks. And I'm just going to read a little picture of, one person's experience of what that could be. So, and while I'm reading this, if you have ideas about what that might be in your country, in your community, in the place where you work, just note that for yourself. Okay. A girl is in the bathroom at home and she notices something different. She hasn't seen it before. She calls out to her parents urgently. They come to the door and ask if she's okay. I am, she says, wavering a little. I think I've got my period. It's here. She was prepared for this, and now, after much anticipation, it's really happening. There are happy tears on both sides of the door. A flurry of activity, grabbing supplies, hugs, lots of hugs, planning tonight's dinner, thinking about gifts, congratulations, reassurance, calling aunties, grandmas, cousins, who all want to celebrate. She knows what's happening to her is normal and natural, but it's also important and momentous. She's a little apprehensive about her life changing now, but she's also proud, excited, and can't wait to tell her friends. Her home is like many others, where well-informed parents teach their children openly and warmly about managing periods and self-care. School is also a safe and supportive place, free of judgment and stigma, where menstrual well-being is embedded in school policy and practice, and positive menstrual education and culture is for everyone. She grows up to work in environments with modern attitudes toward women and others who menstruate, many with menstrual and menopausal policies in place to ensure that all workers are supported to be their most productive, creative, and whole selves. When she needs it, the healthcare system provides holistic and effective treatment, underpinned by an understanding of menstrual well-being as a key factor in overall health and quality of life. Advances in science, due to adequate and fair funding, have enabled the development of sophisticated knowledge about the menstrual cycle and related health. She understands the lifestyle and environmental factors that help her to support her hormonal balance, and if she experiences period pain or other cycle-related distress, she's respected when reporting symptoms, and diagnosis and therapeutic intervention is swift and clear. In this setting, she understands that it's not menstruation or the menstrual cycle that is the problem, but specific conditions that, when identified, can easily be treated. While it feels a long way off for her, she sees this dignity and care naturally extend to the people in her family and community who are perimenopausal and menopausal. They do tell strange stories, though, about the olden days when there was a menstrual taboo. If you're wanting to have a look at that Imagine statement yourself, it's also referenced on the reference page, and you'll be able to download that as well. So what I'd like you to do is pair up with someone or get into a group of 3 and have a talk about further ideas or scenarios that you can come up with about what you would imagine is a positive menstrual culture, a culture that is completely devoid of menstrual discrimination and shame. So if you just find someone or a couple of people to have that conversation with for a few minutes. You might need to move. That's great. If you haven't already found someone to have a chat with, please, you might want to move around the room, share some ideas about what that would look like, or what would be different in your community or your country. Anisha, are you able to see if there's anyone who would like to share their thoughts on that?
Yeah, they're working on it. They're working,
they're
in the
working
groups.
on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave them to it. I won't push then. Thank you. In your groups, if anyone hasn't spoken yet, we'll just have another minute. So you might like to make sure the other person or other people have had a chance to share. Great. Let's have a share from 2 or 3 people. What they've come up with. Nisha, are you there? Oh, someone's got I haven't got any sound.
Hi.
Oh, great.
We were discussing in our group that, the story that we discussed, we were discussing the fact that celebrating menstruation doesn't have to be the end of it, and the opposite of menstrual stigma is not romanticizing menstruation, because it leads to many other problems as well, because then it essentializes the fact that maybe menstruation equates womanhood, maybe it equates the fact that people who are menstruators are destined to do something that is reproduction. And in a world where we imagine menstrual justice is, first of all, we wouldn't be talking about language that is this gender binary. And second of all, menstruation is just a normal bodily process. It's not celebrated, it's not normalized, and neither is it stigmatized, because we don't want to go into biological essentialism, and we don't want to equate womanhood with menstruation, and also not send this message forward that certain bodies exist only to reproduce, and if they don't reproduce, that blood is being wasted. So yeah, that is what we were discussing.
Fantastic. Thank you. Lots of great points there.
Okay, do we have anyone else? Okay, we do have one. Yeah.
Maybe just one more, Anisha.
Je vais le faire en français, in French. So,
I will speak French in our group.
Donc, nous avons imaginé un scénario où une personne d'entre nous se retrouve tachée et personne dans la salle ne se moque, personne ne rigole. On trouve que c'est normal parce que ça l'est, c'est normal. Et cette personne-là va aux toilettes, il y a les infrastructures, il y a l'eau. Et cette personne également retrouve des produits adaptés pour pouvoir prendre soin d'elle. Cette personne revient en salle comme si de rien n'était, tout va bien. Et c'est ce scénario-là que nous avons imaginé pour un monde sans discrimination. Voilà.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're done. You can move. Anyone else? Yeah, I think that's it, Jane.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and great that you were able to have those conversations. It certainly brings up lots of different issues that relate to different, perhaps different issues in different places. I'm just going to share one more slide before we finish. Now, if I can get this one to move on. Okay. I just wanted to have a last little look at a few tips and tricks and activities, and this, you'll be able to get this slide, so I think that's really important. And as I mentioned earlier, it starts with the educator. The educator is the key to being able to have a really sort of positive and effective menstrual education. The facilitator and their intention. What is their intention? Of course, there are different purposes for different aspects of menstrual education at different times as well. It's really important to normalize periods on all level, and of course, several people have spoken about how periods are normal and natural, and of course, this is a given. But of course, in many places and many times, they're not treated as such. So I think it is important to normalize. Now, I'm a bit of a biology nerd myself, so I hope this doesn't. I don't ever intend that to slip into biological essentialism. But I also find it amazing how our bodies work. And I think what I have found with menstrual education over the years, because there has been a very negative foundation of how we understand our bodies and our menstrual cycle, I've found that it's really helpful to give, to really share what truly for me is the amazing aspects of how our bodies work and how the cycle works. And that this helps really, in a way, inoculate young people against what could be coming at them in terms of a taboo. In terms of, it's important to also be looking at the social and economic aspects, that menstrual well-being and respect is integral to achieving gender equity and dignity. We've just had a look at the Just Imagine statement and the menstrual health definition. Those can be really useful. I'm not sure, we have, that's pretty common in schools in this part of the world, is teachers have an understanding of growth mindset as compared to fixed mindset. And this can be applied, if that's familiar to you, this can be applied also to menstrual education. And but you could, if that intrigues you and you don't know much about it, you could just Google it. There was a big study, a PhD study by 𝐃𝐢𝐠𝐧𝐢𝐿, who was in the United States, and the book is called Growth Mindset. It's actually rather interesting, and I think really has some great things about it that can be really useful for menstrual education. And of course, the last point is conversations, conversations, conversations. And I love this quote from Kate Clancy. This is her book that came out not that long ago. Menstruation is a wild process that should captivate and delight. And I'm just going to whip through to show you. So there's references there. I'm not going to go into them, but you can have a look through those. And there's a whole lot of resources and links and free stuff, as well as some books that I think are particularly useful. And of course, I know you all have probably fabulous lists yourselves of resources, but these ones I'm particularly loving. And I just want to mention to you a course that we offer called the Foundations of Menstrual Education, and this is for menstrual educators. If that's interesting to you, you can just look that up and have a look, and that's in the resources. And there is a conference discount code there if that's interesting too. So I'll just stop share. I think my time is up. It's been so great to be with you, and I wish you a fantastic rest of the conference, and many great conversations yet to be had. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Zain. Thank you very much. I think we have a question from one of our participants from online. Is it okay if we take a question?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm still here. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so sorry. It's not actually a question. This is Dr. 𝐊𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 from Cameroon. It's just a contribution to what Jane talked about, especially in terms of communication. Now, in one of our outreach activities in a secondary school or a college, we discovered that the issue of menstruation is considered as a taboo, where maybe if a young lady is stained, instead of people to rush to help her, she becomes a lovable object to them, especially to men. So I think it's high time we really go more into the communication aspect and to talk to men so that they understand that menstruation is not a taboo. They can have sisters, they can have cousins, they can have wives who menstruate, and they surely need to put all hands on deck to see that they are helped other than for it to become a lovable something. And when this happens, the young ladies, they have you low self-esteem, and at some point some of them can even go to depression, and why not even trauma. I'm just adding to the point of communication. We can never overemphasize menstruation because it's natural, and we need to appreciate our bodies, and we put everyone on that so that we all talk about this. Thank you very much. Thank you, King. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That's so true. Thank you for sharing that. And having
Okay, Jane, I'd just
trained-
like to
yes.
cut you up. Can you please respond in 1 minute since we are all, the time is up? Yeah, thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'll keep this really short. Having trained people and part of our organisation from around the world in many different communities have found that the taboo is really alive and well in all kinds of different forms. And that was Lawong, thank you so much for that illustration. And it can be surprising where it's found. We have, we might think, oh, they wouldn't have it there, or they wouldn't have it in that country, but actually, it's I don't know anywhere actually where it doesn't exist in some form or another. So thank you for that. And we've all got great work to do. Lots more work. Thank you.
Thank you.